Hello, YouTube. Today we will be reviewing another important election issue, gerrymandering. Gerrymandering is the practice of rigging a district election to favor your party to receive the most possible seats. The practice has two strategies called packing and breaking. Packing is putting all of your perceived opponent's strong points in one area and or doing the same thing with your own supporters. Breaking is where you cut the opponent's support into smaller areas and spread them over several districts that you believe your candidates can win. Using gerrymandering, a party can take a state that has very even voting patterns and give themselves far more seats than their opponent. This disproportionately gives one party a majority while they may have had a slim margin or even a loss in the actual total vote. We will use Ohio as an example of what gerrymandering can do. Traditionally, Ohio has been a swing state and has had a fairly even voting demographic over many election cycles. Examining the 2022 congressional elections will illustrate my point on how gerrymandering works and how it can turn a purple state into a party stronghold. Ohio has 15 districts, and currently the map has been drawn by a Republican-led committee. This committee draws the map after every census, so every 10 years, and the last one was made for the 2020 census. If you are a geography nerd or familiar with Ohio, you can play my favorite game of Find the City. As you can see, Columbus, Cleveland, and Cincinnati are all packed together in their own districts. Toledo is a bit smaller, and its district takes up much of the Michigan border region. By packing the cities together and skimming off some of the border regions of Cincinnati and Cleveland, the Republicans have been able to increase their seats past the proportion of votes that they received. In the 2022 election, the Republicans did win a majority of the votes throughout the state. They received 2,318,993 votes to the 1,790,614 votes of the Democrats. That is a little over 56% of the vote to just under 44%. So one would expect the Republicans to have a one-seat advantage. An 8-7 lead would be expected, and a 9-6 result would be a welcome surprise to the Republicans. In reality, the Republicans took 10 seats to the 5 won by Democrats. That is 2/3 of the seats and 10% more than they should expect to receive from the amount of votes they won. Getting 2 more seats than should have been predicted may not sound like a large difference, but when you do this in multiple states, it can completely flip the proportion of the House of Representatives in favor of a party that should either have lost or only be clinging to a small margin of victory. It also undermines the faith of our electoral process. People who live in districts that they know are rigged are far less likely to be motivated to vote. This is another way for parties to make gerrymandering even stronger. A depressed vote will almost always help the party that is attempting to gerrymander the vote. So the more unfair a party can make the map, and the more they can pack or break their opponent's districts, the better for the party in power. So what can be done about gerrymandering? Currently, Ohio has an amendment on the fall ballot to attempt to prevent gerrymandering in future congressional maps in the state. This is issue 1 on the 2024 ballot, and it has become a confusing ballot initiative due to misleading information coming from the current Secretary of State's office. I will try to help iron out what issue 1 is. Issue 1 would eliminate the Ohio Redistricting Commission, made up of the governor, auditor, Secretary of State, and 4 lawmakers, 2 Democrats and 2 Republicans. The amendment would create a 15-member panel made up of Republicans, Democrats, and Independents, selected by retired judges to draw legislative and congressional maps, and politicians and lobbyists would be banned from the panel. The proposed change will take active politicians and lobbyists out of the panel and bring more neutral voices into the process. The new panel will have to go through many steps in the map making process before the official election map is made. The new procedure will include 5 public meetings before releasing draft maps, 5 hearings on the draft maps, and 2 hearings on any changes to the draft maps. Final maps must be publicly released at least 3 days before the panel approves them, in a meeting no later than September 19th, 2025. As maps are drawn going forward, they would have to be approved no later than July 15th of years ending in 1, following the census. If none of the maps are adopted by the panel, then each member would rank the proposed maps from most to least favored. The least favored plan would be eliminated until there's only one left. The new process will be far more difficult to successfully gerrymander the congressional district map and will bring more nonpartisan voices into the process. Issue 1 is a good step for Ohio to achieve a gerrymander-free congressional district map. But of course, things are not as simple as they could be. The Ohio Secretary of State has deliberately misled the public in his language on Issue 1 on the ballot. Mr. Frank LaRose was tasked with writing a summary of the issue for voters and included misleading language saying that the issue would require gerrymandering and it would take away accountability. This is a clear attempt to misrepresent the issue and confuse voters to cause many who are opposed to gerrymandering to mistakenly vote no on Issue 1. The Republican Party has doubled down with yard signs in Ohio saying voting no on Issue 1 bans gerrymandering. The clear misleading of voters by the Republican Party in Ohio needs to be called out whenever possible. They are hoping that the voters will be uninformed and that they can confuse people to vote the way they want. Their actions undermine democracy and hurt our elections. This is what is happening in Ohio. But gerrymandering is a tactic used throughout the country by both parties to strengthen their position in state legislatures and the U.S. House of Representatives. Every state needs to adopt anti-gerrymandering amendments to their constitutions to prevent the practice throughout the nation. We must be vigilant against the tactics of misleading voters. It has become a common trend, especially amongst the Republicans as of late, to lie to the American public. Everyone must point out any time that a lie is made about a candidate, issue, or legislation being voted on. Gerrymandering and misleading the public are 2 big ways to undermine the electoral process of our republic, and if left unchecked, it will cause many to lose confidence in our system. We must combat any threat to our democratic principles, and ending gerrymandering is one way to protect our republic.